Hi there! Welcome to Pallet University and the next episode of our PaleoPoke series, where we take a look at the fossil Pokemon from the perspective of a real paleontologist. If you haven't seen any of the previous episodes in this series, make sure to check out the playlist up in the cards, as well as if you're one of roughly like the 60% of my viewers who are not subscribed, make sure to click that button down below, as well as leave a thumbs up. While you're down there, you can leave a comment as well to help me outsmart the YouTube algorithm. So about halfway through writing this script, I realized that the fossil Pokemon that we're going to be covering today, the Generation 5 fossil Pokemon, Tirtouga, Carapace, Archelon, and Archeops, were the weirdest ones by far. At least of the ones that we've done so far. We'll see how Gen 6 turns out. Normally, I fit the entire generation's fossil Pokemon into one episode, but, once I got done with the first pair, I realized that, just covering those two Pokemon, the script was about as long as every other episode in this series that we've done when we've been covering 4 or 5 Pokemon. And the second pair, Archelon and Archeops, were even weirder than Tirtouga and Carapace. So, the script would have ended up being about twice as long, at least, as what I had already written. So in the end, I decided to break up this generation's fossil Pokemon into 2 videos, one for each evolutionary line. Today, as you could probably tell, we're taking on Tirtouga and Carapace, but in order to keep my video scheduling plans the way I had them before I decided to split up this into 2 videos, we're going to be doing both parts this week as well. So this one will be up earlier in the week, probably Monday or Tuesday, and then, well, you already know you're seeing it. And then the second one will be up either Friday or Saturday. If you're new to this series, basically what we do is break down which extinct animals the fossil Pokemon may have been based on, as well as speculate on what their type could have been when they were alive the first time, because most likely it was not the same one that they currently have. With all of that out of the way, let's get started with Tirtouga and Carapace. These two are likely based off of a pair of turtles from the Cretaceous period, with Tirtouga being based off of the smaller one, Protostega gigas, with Carapace being based off of the largest turtle that we have ever known, which is Archelon ischyros. Interestingly, South Dakota, the state that I go to graduate school and live in, is the state where 4 out of the 5 known specimens of Archelon have ever been found. So I was really hoping that we would find one when I was out doing some field work this summer, but unfortunately we didn't. And we were even looking in the formation that these, this turtle that has been found in before, but we just didn't get lucky this time. Tirtouga also apparently gets some inspiration from the leatherback sea turtle, which is the largest extant turtle. And apparently this is, in all of its Pokédex entries that reference how deeply it dives, which apparently is up to half a mile, which is actually pretty accurate to what leatherback sea turtles do, so I'm pretty sure they just kind of stole that from leatherback sea turtles. The Pokédex says some really weird things about all 4 of the fossil Pokemon in this generation, but one of the weirder ones about Tirtouga is that it says that Tirtouga chased prey wherever it saw it, whether it was in the sea or on land. So I try to take the Pokédex as literally as possible because it's essentially the equivalent to field notes, because, the characters, mainly, like the player characters, are sort of supposed to be like field workers for the professor of that region going out and gathering data. And oftentimes, we take our field notes very seriously. Like they can be used as legal documents if, a court case happens to come up surrounding the fieldwork that was done. So we take field notes very seriously, and as much as I want to take the Pokédex that seriously, I really just don't believe this. Sea turtles can move surprisingly very fast in the water, but even land turtles, which are adapted to live there, are not really all that fast. They can be faster than you think, but that still doesn't mean they're fast. Definitely not fast enough to really chase prey. Most turtles that eat, prey things live in the water, or eat things like bugs, which aren't, all that quick at running away. I have literally no idea where this part of the Pokédex could have come from, because leatherback sea turtles definitely don't do this. They eat almost exclusively jellyfish, which aren't really known to last terribly long on land. So I think that they just kind of made this up. The only thing that might make this even slightly plausible is that unlike real-world sea turtles, Tirtouga actually appears to have somewhat of a plastron, which is the front, the belly side of a turtle shell. It's called a plastron, which most sea turtles don't have, or if they do, it's very, very reduced, which allows them to move their limbs more freely so they can swim better. But if it wants to slide around on land, that generally doesn't support them very well. But Tirtouga appears, at least, you don't really get that good of a look at its underside that well, but it looks like it's got a somewhat decent plastron, so maybe? You can see the plastron much better on Carapace, who appears to have a big gap sort of in the middle. While we're talking about Carapace, it also has some weird Pokédex entries. The Pokédex mentions that it was amphibious, which makes way more sense than Tirtouga being sort of amphibious, because Carapace's morphology looks much more conducive to walking around on land. What makes much less sense is Carapace's Pokédex entry from Ultramoon. They suggest that Carapace makes its shell out of the shells of the animals / Pokemon that it eats, which I don't really think is a thing. I tried to do some research, and yeah, there are some sea turtles that do eat shells, but I don't really know how that would make their shell better. So to my knowledge, that's not really a thing. That would, to me, imply that Carapace's shell isn't actually integrated into its skeleton like a turtle's is, and instead that it sort of secretes its shell in a manner sort of like a lot of mollusks like clams do. I honestly sort of think that this might just be a case of somebody at Game Freak not understanding how biology works. The wording of that Pokédex entry gives me similar vibes to the old expression, if you drink lots of milk, your bones will grow big and strong, which I guess. I think that what they were trying to say, without getting too into the weeds, is that because bones, like a turtle shell, are highly calcified, that the calcium in the shells that it eats helps strengthen its shell, which isn't really how it works, but it's a video game. So, based on Tirtouga's morphology, as well as the fact that it's supposed to be based off of Archelon, I would think that Carapace is supposed to be a sea turtle, but its morphology seems to me to be more like a snapping turtle. Snapping turtles are much more amphibious than a sea turtle, for sure. And they even, snapping turtles are actually evolved pretty well to be able to move their limbs, which is why they also have a very reduced plastron. If you ever look at the plastron of a snapping turtle, whether it's a common snapping turtle or an alligator snapping turtle, it's very reduced compared to a normal pond turtle. And its Pokédex entry from Pokemon White actually mentions that its jaws are strong enough to snap steel beams, which sounds much more snapping turtle-y, although many sea turtles do also have a pretty strong bite force. The single big thing that I think Game Freak got pretty wrong with these two Pokemon is that in both Protostega and Archelon, the Carapace, which is the back part of the shell, is also pretty reduced. Most modern sea turtles, with one very glaring exception, still, even though they have a reduced plastron, they still have a really sturdy carapace. So I don't really know what they're trying to get at here, because if they're supposed to be these ancient turtles, most ancient sea turtles in the same group that Archelon and Protostega are in have pretty reduced carapace. Carapaces? Yes, they have... science words are hard. They have pretty reduced back shells, long story short. That one exception in the modern day turtles that doesn't have that, sturdy of a carapace is the leatherback sea turtle, which basically has no shell at all, which is what allows it to actually dive so deep. And I don't really know the biomechanics of how that helps them dive deeper, but in just the brief bit of research that I did for this video, basically, I think the shell would shatter. I think the pressure would become too strong as it would dive that deep, and it would crack its own shell if it tried to go that deep. So by not having a shell, it sort of allows its organs to be compressed, more or less. I honestly could talk for hours about how weird and interesting these two are, but for your sake, I'm sure you have better things to be doing. I'm just going to get to the point of this video, which is what type are they? This one is honestly very cut and dry. It helps having previous precedents, which is basically what all science is using previous works to interpret the conclusions or observations that you make in the research that you are currently trying to do. Much like Kabutops and Armaldo, Caracasta's Pokedex entries frequently mention that it comes on land and, goes into the water interchangeably. So I kind of feel obligated to make it a water ground type, just like I did with Kabutops, as well as, adding the ground type to the bug type for Armaldo. Once again, with that data consistency. Make sure to let me know your thoughts on these type suggestions in the comment section down below, as well as what is your favorite, fossil Pokemon. I don't think I've actually asked that yet in one of these videos, which is a little crazy. But yeah, let me know which fossil Pokemon is your favorite and why. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Pallet_U to keep up on all things Pokemon science. And as always, there's a time and place for everything.